Welcome to Building a Mobility Strategy That Works. My name is Stephen Rose, and I'm a Senior Product Marketing Manager with the Windows and Devices team, and thank you for joining us today. Mobility in today's business world is absolutely the reality, but different companies expect different things out of it, from a variety of business needs and use cases where mobility makes sense, to a wide variety of device choices, to what the end user experience should be. How do I secure it? How do I manage these? These are all topics which we'll take some time today and we'll dig into. We have some great panelists from some different companies and from Microsoft here to guide us along the way. So let's go ahead and get started. Introducing our guests. On my far right, I have Peter Wengert from Microsoft. He is the Managing Director for U.S. Device Sales. Michael Niehaus, our Senior Product Marketing Manager from the Windows Commercial team, who's joined me on other VRTs. Welcome, Michael. To my right is Ted Byerly from the San Bernardino County Sheriff's Department. He is the Team Leader for Networking, Security, and Infrastructure. To my left, from Empire Today, I have Phil Kohler. You are Director, Application Development and Architecture. And finally, at the end, Adam Barron, who's also a Senior Product Marketing Manager with the SCCM and Intune team. Thank you all for joining me today. Before we get started, I did want to remind our audience of two things. Number one, we are, if you're watching this live, taking your questions. We encourage you to put those in, and we'll be answering those on air. And second, at the end of today's broadcast, we'll have a survey, and you'll get a chance to win one of two devices. We'll be drawing for two, We have a Dell Venue 8 Pro, and we have a Toshiba 8 Encore. So two of our lucky viewers today will get a chance to walk home with those great devices, which we'll be talking about today as well. So determining a device strategy is an important part of mobility. So Ted, we'll start with you. With the San Bernardino County Sheriff's Department, you guys are dealing with a geographical area that's about 20,000 miles. It's equal to, I have it written down here, New Jersey, Connecticut, Delaware, Rhode Island combined. You go from California all the way out to the Grand Canyon, a wide variety of cities, desert, etc. How do you make that all work? How do you sit down with a mobile strategy for an area that's that big?
Well, it's been difficult. We started with computers in the car, early on in Active Directory, trying to manage them. And really, you just need a mobile device management solution. Mm-hmm. And we've kind of transitioned from computers to mobile tablets in the vehicles and give the deputies that. But, without the mobile device management globally or across the enterprise, managing those individually is too difficult. You said it's 20,000 square miles. It could take you 4 hours to drive from headquarters to one of the stations. So that's what we were looking for.
And you brought one of the devices with us today. What device is this?
A G-Tech ruggedized tablet.
You can hold it up and show the folks. It's pretty cool. Can we throw that?
Yeah.
We'll do that later. If we get to the end, we have time, we'll throw it. Phil, you're Empire Today, and I grew up in Chicago, so I knew the old 588-2300 back when I was a kid. You have 1,200 mobile users that are going into people's homes, and when they're there, they were doing paper-based solutions to, how many feet is this, and sort of breaking it all down and what the order is. And you were getting like 1 out of every 4, 25% of some sort of error. And by moving to an application and a mobile solution, you were able to reduce that. Tell me a little bit more about what you guys implemented.
That's correct. We have, with right now, our sales contractors, it's purely paper-based. Mm-hmm. So as we move to a Windows 8 app, which we've developed, which hopefully we'll get to show later.
Yeah, you will, absolutely.
But yeah, moving to a Windows 8 app, we've been able to, the contractors that are using it have been able to reduce defects by 25%, as well in a lot of cases are increasing their margins as well as the average ticket price. So
that's great, yeah.
It's overall, it's doing really well.
Awesome. So, we look forward to seeing the demo in a little bit. Peter, moving down to you, we work together very, very closely with a lot of our customers and really trying to find great solutions. Tell us a little bit about some of the customers that you've worked with and some of the solutions that they brought into their businesses.
Yeah, I think to Phil's case with Empire Today, it's people in customer service, people that are mobile salespeople, service people. They're trying to get in front of their customers. We've seen a big tick in retail specifically about trying to get those customer interactions, side-by-side selling. One big thing is a couple of clothes manufacturers in the Bay Area, as well as Petco, Anheuser-Busch, are really targeting like the store manager.
Right.
It used to be in the back room. You've got the person doing the scheduling, the training on a big workstation. Now they could actually get a light tablet that they could bring out and actually talk to their employees, talk to their customers, and interact more with their customers rather than that back room. And then to Ted's point, I think, reducing the amount of paper that you carry, finding information quickly, We've done a lot in the transportation industry with pilots, for example. So Delta Airlines.
Delta, yeah.
Carrying almost 40 pounds of paper reduced to now just an electronic tablet that has their electronic flight bag, so they could actually cruise around the air, have that information at their fingertips.
They were like $11 million a year so that was saved between fuel cost, paper cost, time, et cetera, by moving them from the flight bag to the electronic flight bag, correct?
Yeah, and that's really opened up for the pilots, now cashless cabin, for the flight attendants, to maintenance workers. It's between retail and transportation, those are two areas really growing.
That's great. I saw you brought a few devices with us. Give us a little peek on what you brought today.
Yeah, so this is the Dell 8-inch Pro. So this is one of the devices you'll be giving away.
Yeah, and that device retails for how much?
So this is $299.
Yeah, and that's a 2 gigs of RAM. You can add 64 or 128. You can add memory to that. Runs any piece of software that you want to install on it pretty much, which is great.
And then this is the brand new Toshiba Encore 2.
This is one of our Internet of Things devices, is it not?
It is. So this is listed for $199.
Wow.
One of the lowest cost tablets on the market today.
And that's got 1 gig of RAM, but it runs 32-bit software, and that's a 1.33 gig Atom processor in that.
Yeah.
So pretty powerful enough to run certainly email, Outlook, things like that.
Yeah. Then we brought the HP Elite Pad. We have the Dell Venue 11.
Right.
And it's great to see our partners, Lenovo, HP, Dell,
Yeah.
Toshiba, and Microsoft all in the game, making
absolutely.
options for our customers.
Yeah, I brought this device. This is a relatively new one as well. This is the new Lenovo 2 Yoga. And one of the cool things we liked about this one, and we showed this to a lot of folks at the Health and Medicine Conference, HIMSS, was that it is a full laptop, but as you continue to flip, you'll notice the keys completely disappear. And it's great because then, as you were talking about, it's got a stylus. You pull out the stylus, but you can sit with a patient, go over records, you can circle, you can write, really have that great interactive experience, or even tent the device to have that experience like that, but still have that, I need to sit down and get work done and want to dig in, do spreadsheets, et cetera. So we have currently 2,400 Windows 8 logo devices that are currently available in market today. And that's a wide range to allow people to pick from the form factors from what you're looking at with LTE up to more ruggedized devices, some of the smaller. It's pretty amazing the stuff we have. Michael, looking to you, we're seeing a lot of challenges, and I know one of your areas of expertise is best practices in helping our customers through the stuff we do on Springboard and the forums and all that to find it. What are a few things as folks look at mobility or some good key things for them to be aware of?
Well, we spent a lot of time talking with customers really about the different types of scenarios and choosing devices that are most appropriate for the scenario that they're looking at. Like, you may not want to use an 8-inch tablet if you are the type who sits and types all day, but coming up with the types of scenarios like retail and sales and these
doctors
cases,
love the 8-inch tablet, fits right into their lap.
Right, we've been encouraging customers to look at those types of devices and use them for those specific scenarios while they still might use laptops and desktops for their more traditional information workers.
It's perfect. Adam, with Windows 8.1 specifically, we added support for what we call mobile device management, or MDM solutions. In addition to all the great stuff we do with SCCM and Intune, we also added support for AirWatch and Mobile Iron. So when we talk about mobile device management, what are you hearing at a high level from our customers?
Yeah, it's a great question. These are some awesome Windows devices. What we do here is that, increasingly there are other kinds of devices. There's iOS devices, there's Android devices, and the customer has to be able to manage all of those. And they want to manage it in one place. They don't necessarily want yet another management solution. They want to bring it all together. So that's really what we're kind of hearing from some of our customers. And I'm going to show you sort of what some of that management experience looks like on a non-Windows device in a few minutes.
Awesome. We will look forward to that. Considerations when you're determining a mobile strategy. What are some of the key things that we take a look at? And Peter, I'll go back to you on this one. I know we've had a really great use case, and we were chatting about this last night, is Habit Burger. Habit Burger, they're in Southern California, and what they've done is they've taken tablets, which they're using back of the house. Those same tablets are being used as a point of sale or POS system, and those same tablets are being walked outside as folks are lining up to be able to pay for their burger. So what are some of the different scenarios we're seeing for these different form factors, like Michael was saying?
Yeah, again, retail, Habit Burger is a great one because you used to have to bring your tray up to this big 2-foot register, and now it's being replaced with a really low-cost tablet for their point of sale. They could do line busting by going in line and taking those orders. But we're seeing it just change the experience in general of many different industries. You talk healthcare. Last time you went into a doctor's appointment, with the paper charts, we're seeing devices like that. You've got the Surface Pro 3, which is amazing.
Yeah.
Seattle Children's here locally was one that's got a video out now that actually shows how the doctors and nurses is just changing the game of how they're talking to their customers. It's a 12-inch form factor, so it works great for their Cerner application. It's really good on how they interact with their patients. It really takes down that barrier of wheeling in a big workstation or a lot of the paper stuff. They can now go right to their customers, have it digital, and right next to them.
Right.
Another area is the banks, I think, is another big one. That
Absolutely.
we're seeing. When you walk in a bank, we've got City National down in L.A. They actually greet you with a person with a tablet. You could actually log in, get that information, then they could direct you, either answer your questions there or direct you to the loan officer or to the agent that needs to take care of that customer.
Right.
It's really changing the experience of how you interact with your customers.
And we're finding now that what we're hearing from customers is less of the lockdown and secure the device and more into we want to secure the data. That we want to make sure that if someone walks out the door, and I know with Empire you guys are using a lot of contractors that are doing this, that if they take off and leave, you don't want them walking out with a device that has all this data on this. I know you're going to hit this a little later, Adam. But it is to secure the data, and that becomes a really critical area. And secondly, we're also hearing, especially with medicine, where they're running Epic and Cerner, and if they're doing it off an iPad, they're constantly going into these remote sessions, and this is something we were chatting about too. And the ability to have all of that on the one device and not have to start switching to not only run all the apps that our customers are creating, the over 250, 300,000 apps we have in the store, but the key thing is we have 4 million desktop apps that run on the desktop that are currently supported that folks can use today. Now, I know when we were chatting, you had looked at iPads as something that you were looking at, but it just didn't make sense because I think you were saying they're consumer devices and weren't really bridging the gap. Tell us a bit more about that.
We'd actually purchased iPads, and we're going to do that as the mobile device that where people could use to, as we're all talking about, get out and talk to your end users and do that. But they really didn't take into consideration a mobile device management strategy. A enterprise level is really, we talked with Apple, it was really a consumer device. It was for the end user. And as an enterprise management and the security of that, we had to take all those into consideration. We couldn't effectively manage the iPads to access the information that law enforcement officers need. So we've kind of changed direction.
Wow. Phil, I know in giving these devices out to folks, you guys were already a Windows shop, but you were saying we want a better way to manage these devices.
Right.
I started to look at things like SCCM and Intune. Tell us a bit more there.
So to manage devices, we are using Intune and System Center combined. On that really allows us to, one, manage the apps that we want installed, so mainly our Precision Code app, so we can install it, update it as we need it. Also, if a sales contractor leaves the company, we'll deactivate them and we can wipe the device, which will remove the application and all the data that goes along with it, which would be our product catalog, which we have on the device.
Right, and they're not holding any PII data, but they still have got specs about people's houses and things like that, and that's information you want to be able to keep secure.
Exactly. Yeah.
That's great. Security. When we take a look at any IT solution, any mobile solution, security, and being a government agency, that's absolutely top of the list. So tell us a little bit about, the government regulations. What do you do? Not that probably many people run into a police car to go steal a device, but things happen. And I think one of the most interesting things that you were talking about last night is just the change rather than having a standalone device to assigning a device. Tell us a little bit more about that, and how do you lock that down, and how do you get folks to take responsibility for those?
Well, the government regulations you talked about, FBI puts out regulations on security, State Department of Justice puts out regulations on security, encryption, security, how to manage these devices if you should get lost or stolen, because everybody's history is accessible through this device.
Right.
And when it used to be locked in the vehicle, it was one thing. Now that it's mobile, you have to take that extra step and really make sure, no one would want their personal information out there. So you have to take all those extra steps. In addition, after we found out how nice the mobile devices were, we started thinking how we manage desktops just in general. And, every station, somebody would be out in the field or have to go back into the station to get information. And then we kind of were tied into the car. But now we've made the determination that everybody, once at a certain level, will be assigned a mobile device. And that mobile device will be theirs from the start to the end, till the device gets replaced. And that way they can walk into any stations. You know, we were 20,000 square miles. We have 40 locations, 40 stations you could be at. Some guys go from station to station to station. And when they were locked to one PC, we'd have to move profiles around and stuff like that. Now, once that device is assigned to them, it'll be theirs until we replace it.
And they're taking better care of it because it is assigned to them because they own it. It's not just one of a many pool of devices.
Right. It's not just a generic device they can get angry at and, you know, abuse it. This is their device, their personal device. And then, you know, as long as they do appropriate stuff on it, we'll manage it.
Yeah, my favorite phrase, we had dinner last night, was we don't want somebody taking the butt of a rifle to it, which I thought, I haven't heard that much as I chat with customers, but that's definitely something that could happen. So if this gets reduced, that's a good thing.
There's been a few broken screens that they don't know how they got broke.
Using contractors, security becomes a big issue because these are folks who can take off at any time. They can get a better offer. They're salespeople, and salespeople, that's what they do. So what are you doing, you know, with remote wipe, with lost devices, broken devices, securing the data? How do you look at that?
Well, we really just look at it as we set them up in Active Directory. They get provisioned in Intune. And then if they do leave, like I said before, we can deactivate them to remove all our data and the apps from the device as well. And we're using the Nokia Lumia 2520, which is you know, lower cost, not cheap, but lower cost. So
Right. It's an RT device.
yeah. So if someone does walk off with it, we've removed the data from it. So it's not like we're giving them a $1,500 device or $2,000 device like the rugged tablets.
Right.
So so that's where we're at with that.
That's great, and it's got LTE in it. But again,
Yeah.
you can turn that off as well. And
Yeah.
you can also force things that also says if data is over a certain size, they have to use Wi-Fi. They can't use LTE. You can limit.
Yeah, we
how
can
that
do
happens.
profiles through Intune and System Center to do that.
That's great.
And the built-in LTE with the 4G LTE is great because they're always online, or for the most part always online. So they don't have to carry a separate 4G hotspot or use their phone. So it makes life for the sales contractors a lot easier, not having to
Right.
charge a separate device and make the connection.
Right.
They just pull out of their bag and they're online.
Yeah, they're ready to go.
They're ready to go.
And that's great for customers because it's not this, oh, hang on, I got to get
Yeah.
this set up. I got to go through it.
Yeah.
It's seamless, which reflects upon your business. When
Yeah,
it's
or
just
like, you know,
that.
you wouldn't have a contractor asking a customer, hey, can I connect to your Wi-Fi?
Right, yeah, that's never a good thing. I can have your Wi-Fi password. Yeah, definitely not a good thing. We got a question in, and this is a great one for Adam because I think this absolutely sets up what we're going to be doing here in just a moment or two, which is, does SCCM Intune provide mobile device management, MDM support for iOS devices? And we just couldn't set that up any better. So why don't you tell us a little bit about managing that, some best practices, and I think one of the great things with Windows 8.1 and one of the things that we've brought with Intune is the company portal, which is something we use here inside of Microsoft. So tell us a little bit about how the MDM works, what a company portal is, how that's different from a store, and you're going to do this all on an iOS device, so this is great for us to see that.
I am, yeah. So it's a great question. Thanks for setting me up. I do have my iOS device here. So we think about a couple things when we think about what you mentioned, the company portal. One is we want to drive consistency for the end user across all the devices. So they could move from a Windows device to an iOS device to an Android device, and we want to make sure that they always have consistent access to those company resources. And like you said, we use this here at Microsoft. This is, you can enroll your phone or your devices and get all the apps from Microsoft IT that you'd need to do your job. And so we just do this quick demo here on my iPad. I already have the company portal installed, and you can think about this as really my app store for work, right? This is your curated company, portal, all the apps that IT has vetted and provided for you to do your job.
And this is not just in a Windows device. It's not just the Windows 8 apps. This is also the desktop apps as well.
That's right.
Yeah.
So with Intune paired with System Center Configuration Manager, we can figure out actually what device you have and give you the app in the best format for that. Could be an install onto the machine, could be a web app, could be an app in an app store somewhere.
Right.
So we really are intelligent about what that user is using and how we give them that app experience. But we can provide, IT can feature apps, or, we can put apps in categories. So you can see here that I have, an application that my company has developed. I did my session timed out here, of course. But I can give you, you can give apps that have been developed in-house, and so you can put those all on the company portal for the end user.
Okay, so here you're logging in to Intune, which is then going to authenticate the user and give them the connectivity once they get to that.
That's right. And it's the same company credentials that you use for everywhere else.
Okay. And then Side loading is a big piece of this, and I know, Michael, you're our side loading expert, so while that's loading up, how does side loading work, and how does that get licensed?
Yeah, the basic idea is that you want to be able to put apps on the devices that you own, and those apps, if they don't come from the Windows Store, need to be loaded using a process called side loading.
Right.
So that's the basic capability where if you've developed applications yourselves, you can take those and using Intune or any mobile device management solution, push them out to a device.
Okay.
There are some requirements to do that with certificates and the side loading keys. The main thing with the side loading key is that it needs to be installed once on each device to enable side loading.
Okay.
And you have to acquire those. So if you have software assurance, if you're a volume license customer, with most of our volume license agreements, we provide those for free. So you just need to go out to the Volume License Service Center, grab your key and install it on the device. Or if you're using Intune, you can actually just put the key into Intune and it will take care of pushing that key out to the
Now,
device.
if you're a developer, I know you get a free 30-day key just by connecting to your Windows Live account. So if you want to test something, you don't actually pay for something. But what if you're a small business, you don't have a volume license agreement, and you just want to push something out to 5, 10 customers at a unique location?
Yeah, there is a requirement to get a side loading key. You need to have a volume license agreement. So you would need to sign up for an open agreement, which is a fairly easy, low entry point volume license agreement that just about anyone can sign up for in order to get that key. You would have to pay for an open license. You'd have to pay $100 to get the key, but then you could use it on as many machines as you want. But if you have any of the additional volume license agreements over and above that, then these are free.
And that's something we changed because we got a lot of feedback from customers, and they
lot
said,
of
look, we're
feedback.
on small business, and we're not going to spend this much money. So we've really adjusted that based on it.
Yeah, and for a lot of customers, yeah, it was $30 a machine. You had to buy it in 100 packs.
Yeah, it
was
didn't make
messy.
sense.
So yeah, we got rid of all of that with the latest changes to our licensing and price lists.
Adam, why don't you walk us through the store now that we thoroughly understand side loading?
All right, yeah, side loading is everyone's favorite. So this, again, back to the company portal, you can see there are apps here that my IT department has built and given for me. This is a sample web app, a travel app that maybe my IT department has built. You can also see apps that are in the store, so I can go and get these from here. And then the last thing I just want to show is that you can also see that I have other devices. I've got this area called My Devices. So, for example, this is my Surface RT device. So from here, for example, if this was lost or stolen, from my iPad, I can actually take an action against that device to wipe all its data and reset it to factory so that no one can take that information. Or if, for example, I get the new Surface, I can give that old Surface to my kids and I can actually wipe just the company data off of it. Again, all from my iPad, or the IT Pro can automate that process.
That's great. Peter, it's probably a good question for you. We got asking, what devices would you recommend for the transportation industry, especially for scenarios when drivers need access to Wi-Fi capabilities to take their training on mobile devices? And I know the 2520 is one we've talked about. What are some of the other ones that are out there?
Yeah, I think it's amazing how far we've come in the last 2 years or even 6 months.
Yeah.
Like you said, the amount of devices out there are huge. I think it depends which industry you are. If it's transportation industry and you're in the sheriff's department, you need a ruggedized solution.
Right.
So we've got great ruggedized solutions from G-Tech. We've got Panasonic, InMotion. So really, if you want a ruggedized thing that will withstand environment, outdoor use, those ruggedized ones are the best ones.
Right.
If you need connectivity, things like our Nokia Lumina there, the 2520 has broadband in it. This Dell Venue 11 now has broadband capability.
And what's great about that device is if someone has a software assurance license, they can move to the Windows Industry SKU, which used to be known as Windows Embedded. They can lock that down, just have 3 apps that work on it. If they want it ruggedized, they can just purchase a case for it and do that. So they can take a device that runs for $800 and turn that into a $2,600 type device, where there's a lot of feature functionality in here that's not going to be in that, but in a more disposable format, or even an 8-inch device. It really opens up opportunities for our customers to truly pick the best device that makes sense for the scenario that they're working with.
Yeah, and if you don't have LTE built in, we got a lot of people that have the phone or have the Wi-Fi pucks. That's really easy to pair and get that connectivity wherever you are. So some have it, some don't, but all of them have Wi-Fi. Connecting to a mobile device, a phone, or a Wi-Fi puck makes it easier to travel around. And I think the array of devices and form factors and prices make it incredible. You know, it used to be you only had a couple options. now you've got several to choose from. So.
Absolutely. And with now just Wi-Fi being available in so many places and things like that, that helps as well.
Yeah.
Piloting, we've talked about challenges and the difficulties in managing and rolling this out. Phil, your piloting process now, you increase sales by 5 to 10%, your margin by 5 to 10%, and you started with a pilot in 6 markets, 15% of the sales force. How quickly did that grow, and how did you get your users on board? Hey, this is a great thing. This is going to help you, because change is scary for people.
Yes,
so how did you walk folks through that?
Well, we started small, so we actually started with a small pilot in Chicago, which was where we're based. Just a handful of contractors last summer, just to get a feel for the technology. We had a few, like 4 or 5 different models of tablets. And then we went back and added more features to the application. And then we started a wider, a bigger pilot early this year with one market. So we started in our Phoenix market, which was known as a well-run market. So we chose the market based on, how well it was run. They were very organized, very tech-savvy. And we went there and we rolled out to half the sales contractors there. We have basically a team of trainers and support staff, usually one trainer and a couple support staff to go to the market. And they conduct basically 2 days of training, because that covers a lot.
Right.
It's basically the whole selling process. So it's a lot to cover. A lot of the sales contractors aren't familiar with technology. They don't use computers on a daily basis. They may use a phone, but computers and
There's still pad and paper, lots of paper.
Yeah,
And you're talking about all this paper they were.
Yeah.
How many, when they went into a home, how many pieces of paper were they generally
if
walking
they make a
out
sale, they have to fill out a contract, which, depending on the state, can be 10, 12 pages.
Wow.
Or even larger. Then there's spec sheets, which give the order details. So it's a good stack of paper. And then they're required to go back home and fax it into basically our order entry, so that the orders can get entered and processed, so they can do a next day install.
Wow.
So with the tablet and the app, basically no more paper,
Right.
no more faxing.
Right.
As soon as they make the sale, they click upload, and within pretty much instantaneous, that's back in our back office, ready for entry and ready for processing.
And so you're able to not only service the customer quicker, but also probably pay your salespeople quicker, which is important to them.
Yeah. Just overall, like we talked about, reducing our defects, just because of they're not writing things down, they're not forgetting things.
Right.
So it's huge.
That's awesome.
Across the board from start to finish. It's huge for our contractors, for our back office, for our customers.
That's great.
So, yeah, it's really a huge benefit.
Peter, one of the things that we were chatting about last night is training, and I think the way that you're doing this at the Sheriff's Department is interesting, that you got your deputies involved, not IT folks, and this is something that we were really amazed, because we thought that's a really great idea. Tell us a little bit more about that.
Well, we've done several large projects, and we really found out, originally there was some type of disconnect. We had IT staff going out and trying to train deputies, or go gather requirements, or listen to them and build effective tools for the deputies.
Right.
And there's some kind of disconnect. And what we did, we brought the highly technical deputies, we grabbed a few, brought them in, and they're kind of the liaison between the IT staff and the deputies. And now they actually run projects, the deputies do, and train other deputies. So they're kind of speaking the same language,
Right.
not the IT language.
They're not using all those acronyms.
And no acronyms, and they understand what the deputies need because they've been there. So now it's really seamless. So we use deputies now to train other deputies on projects.
And is the reaction when a deputy hears they're going to be trained, that they immediately get a little nervous and they hear it's going to be one of their own? Does that really remove a lot of that angst on learning something new?
That's probably part of it. I think part of it is, a deputy speaking to a deputy. They know where they're coming from. They know they have that experience. They know that they understand where they're coming from. So when they talk about something they need or they would desire, they understand each other a little bit better.
That's great. So if you're interested in doing a pilot, we've talked about different things, and you're going, well, that sounds interesting, but, how can Microsoft help me? That's very much in your sweet spot with some of the programs we have. Take a few minutes here and chat about a few of the programs, and we'll put up the URLs on how to access those in a little bit.
Yeah, so a lot of our customers are trying to build their own apps or work on custom apps or apps already in the market like Cerner and Epic. And we do have a list of device specialists out in the market. We also have our channel partners that will help customers customize the app or work with those ISVs to build the app.
Right.
So there's actually this Microsoft Application Developers Group that will help customers with that. And so our device solution specialists around the globe will help in that. Those other programs around buy back your devices. So if you do have these old iOS or Droid devices or even laptops.
How much will you give us for that?
It's up to $350.
Wow.
It's pretty good. And it also includes laptops. So if you have old PCs lying around, we do have a great program for the buyback program. You could take inventory and buy those back. So between app development, upgrading your latest and greatest devices to the freshest, those are two programs you could take advantage of.
And we'll give URLs for those at the end of the program. Michael, you interact with a lot of our end users. When you hear, we want to go to Windows 8, but what are some of the key things that you hear over and over again, where if you could give someone advice that's about to take a look at doing a pilot, what are a few things you would share with them?
Gosh, what are a few things?
I mean, and it's such a wide variety, but I guess what are two of the, you do tech ed, you speak with a lot of our target folks. So what are a few things you keep hearing over and over again?
Generally, we start off with the general concerns about discoverability and learning how to use Windows 8, Windows 8.1, and adjusting to the changes from Windows 7 and how it feels differently. But for the most part, most people, when they start to use a Windows-based tablet, it doesn't take them very long to get used to it at all. Right. There are a few items where we know that we can continue to make improvements on discoverability, and we'll keep working at it to make sure that we make it better for the next release.
We talked a little bit about that at Build this year.
Generally, even within 15, 20 minutes of playing around with it, they get a good feel for how the Windows device really works, and they're comfortable with it, and they can start using it.
Mm-hmm. Well, probably one of the other big things is, as you're about to do a pilot, is some of the great tools that we have, especially when you're taking a look at things like application compatibility, which machines are ready. Take a minute, talk about Map and Act, which are two free tools that we have that are out there that may help folks, and they're free, which is a great thing.
Yeah, and they kind of take a different approach to the same problem. It's basically a way of gathering inventory from all your existing systems to figure out what apps do I have. And then based on the applications that I have, we can look at our compatibility database and tell you whether or not these apps are going to work on Windows 8. Now, compared to, say, a Windows XP to Windows 7 migration, where app compatibility was a bit of a challenge, going from 7 to 8 or 8.1 is pretty much a non-event, because most of the apps, they just work. Because we haven't really made any significant changes in Windows to affect the desktop applications between 7 and 8.1, so most of the application compatibility challenges are gone. Okay. Not completely, but we're continuing to work at it.
Good. Got another question. Would love to hear from Empire and Sheriff's Department how you managed end user training to move from XP Vista Windows 7 to Windows 8, if there's any specific best practices that you ran across. And I think you talked about having folks who were more savvy train others and not making it IT, but what else can you add for that?
Well, we use the deputies, and we use roll call training. We send the deputy out when he's going to go out to a station. We try to do it station by station. Brief him in roll call. We talked about kind of a
That's where they sit down in the morning and they talk about what's going to happen.
Roll call, what's going on. He just goes over some of the changes. They didn't have that big of a change for him, really. The computers have been in the car long enough now, so people kind of know what to do. We went over start, where the start button is, how to shut it down. But the application they use and how they log on is all basically the same from Windows 7 to now.
Perfect. How about you? You're dealing with contractors who did not use a PC before, weren't having that legacy. How did you get them to feel comfortable with this device and feel it was really going to
Well, really, it's hands-on training. So in a small group setting. So we definitely get our trainers out to the markets that we roll out to. And we do small groups at a time. So try to train less than 8 reps at a time for 2 days, since it is a big app. And then we learn from one training session to the next, what works, what doesn't work.
Right.
And just fine-tuning it over time. Maybe at some point we will try to get a contractor training a contractor, which would help because we have contractors all over the country in 70 markets. So.
Wow. Do you ever is it all in person? Do you ever do online? Are there online resources?
So far we've done them all in person. We'll see as we go along if it makes sense to do something over video. So we do have video conferencing we could possibly utilize.
Okay.
But we're learning right now. So I learn how to train them, learn how the reps learn, and like I said, it's just changing and adapting as we go through these.
Right.
So
are you on Windows 8.1 or 8.1 update?
we're at Windows 8.1. Some of the devices may have updated, but most
Nothing,
part.
nothing broke for the ones that
Nothing
did. It
broke.
was seamless.
Right, yeah. So
That's great. It's good to hear.
actually, our original deployment of the app was on Windows 8, and then we updated it to Windows 8.1. So,
Great. How long did it take you to go from 8 to 8.1?
well, we hadn't started the pilot yet, so it was more of just updating the code.
Got it.
So it wasn't that bad.
And the code, no problems with the code with 8.1 update?
No problems. I mean, there's a few minor hiccups here and there, but overall everything worked out well.
That's great. Until now, we focused in on the business needs and IT perspectives. So let's take a look at enterprise mobility from the end user standpoint. So if I'm the guy who gets handed the tablet, which we've been chatting about how that does, and single sign-on is one of those areas, because what we want to do is not have to have somebody do one password for this and then log into this and have a different one, and that times out. Where am I at? What am I doing? So single sign-on is a key piece of this. So what is single sign-on, and how does it sort of build on what you already have?
Absolutely. I mean, we've seen these great stories. I took a look at the rugged tablet. There's like 9 apps that the deputies have to sort of look at. So when you think about single sign-on, these cloud-based, cloud-delivered apps like Salesforce and O365 and things like that, it's just a fact of how our customers operate. And if you think about having a different username and password for every single one of those apps, it's just untenable
Right.
for the end users. It's a nightmare. So with single sign-on capabilities of Azure Active Directory, we're able to bring that together and use one login and password for all of those applications. And Microsoft has built in over 1,500 connectors to the most popular cloud-delivered applications, so that IT doesn't have to do any of that code or that work themselves. It's already sort of built in. And so I'll just quickly take you through the Azure Active Directory premium app access panel, which is where those end users would actually go and find those applications and take action and go and use them. So you can see here I have the applications that IT has given to me. I have Exchange Online. I can go to SharePoint Online. If you have a corporate Facebook or Twitter account, you can actually give your end users access to that here, and so they never actually know the password to that social media account. And then from here as well, there are things like creating groups of users for email distributions and things like that. And this gives those end users the power to do all of those, all that management in a self-service way. So they don't have to call IT. You don't have to have a help desk call to process a password reset, for example. So that's all here within this application. And then we've brought these together with Azure Active Directory Premium, Windows Intune, and our Azure Rights Management Service into an offering called the Enterprise Mobility Suite, which makes it even more comprehensive and cost-effective for our customers to get all these cloud services to address the management aspects of enterprise mobility.
How does EMS help someone who is already doing this on-premise? Why should I look to move this Active Directory piece to the cloud? I already have it. It's working great. I got all my servers. What are the advantages of that?
Well, there's obviously some cost savings to be had if you leverage Microsoft's gigantic data centers, and so from a total cost of ownership perspective, it can be easier. And frankly, some of these applications and some of these devices are just cloud managed, right? Like this Nokia, the Lumia tablet. These are sort of web managed or cloud managed kind of devices. So it makes sense to manage them where they live. So these cloud services are really easy ways to extend and leverage what you have on-prem already with System Center and Active Directory to leverage these cloud resources.
Interesting. The app that we've been chatting about, from the time that you said we want to do an app to you build, I guess my first question is why Windows over these other platforms? And then what was the process to get to that point?
Well, first off, why Windows? We did look at iPads originally, but we're a Microsoft shop, so we have developers in-house who are very, basically they know Visual Studio and C# and to do it as an iPad would basically require basically bringing in a third party and a lot of expense there. So that's why and that was right around the time that Windows 8 was coming out. So as we saw it, it looked like, hey, that's the right solution. And we were able to put together a pretty good, we called it a demo app at the time, of some really good functionality, which myself and one of our other developers, Stephen Creaney, put together. We did it in about 6 weeks. It's not the full set of functionality we have here, but with Visual Studio and Windows Azure. And we showed it to upper management, and at that point it was pretty much a no-brainer that we needed to move forward. And we did. And then we did bring in a Microsoft partner, Magenics, to help us out a little bit. But we do have our own developers working on it as well. So it just seemed to make sense, and it worked out.
Great. We'll get to the demo in just a minute, but another great question came in, and Michael, I'll take this to you first, and then Peter. Why would I move from Windows 7 to Windows 8? We do not have a business need for tablet device or a touch device, and we hear that a lot. So, Michael, I'll go to you first, then Peter. What do you say to customers when they say that?
Yeah, and generally we focused on the new devices first because, well, it's much easier to understand just from looking at the device that you need something different that runs on that device. So those become the easier discussion. But for existing laptops and desktops, really then it comes down to what's the functionality in Windows that's most important to you. Mm-hmm. Do you want better security? Do you want better manageability? Because those are the types of features that are built into 8.1.
Faster boot times, yeah.
Faster boot times, better power management, better memory management, more effective use of the hardware, being able to run on lower-end Atom-based devices and higher-end devices equally well. All of those are much improved in 8.1.
And the newer BIOS, UEFI and System on a Chip. How does that really change a device when you take a look at those two things? Are those conversations we hear a lot?
Well, for the UEFI, it's basically improving the startup times.
And let me say, for those, UEFI is the new BIOS that replaced
It's the
BIOS.
replacement, yeah.
Right.
So getting rid of that legacy stuff that goes back to the original IBM.
With the beep
PC.
and the thing that comes up and all that.
Yeah, you shouldn't have to hit the power button and then watch all these messages scroll by,
Right.
and 30 seconds later the operating system thinks about booting.
Right.
Now it's push the button, it's on. So that's the benefit of UEFI. You get the instant on, instant sleep, instant resume from hibernate. So you get much better power management that way. So it's really good for that. The system on a chip really is all about efficiency.
Right.
So how can I get a low-cost device that's very efficient, that has all-day battery life, that Windows knows how to manage the device to make sure that it will last for 8, 9, 10, 12 hours, depending on the device.
Right. And the ability that if there's malware, the device is smart enough to know, okay, I need to reboot. I'm going to boot onto the system on a chip, see what's different, figure that out, and be able to remove that malware with nothing more than says, you have some malware, please reboot your PC, and that's all you need to do to remove it.
Right. One of the many security features added in is Secure Boot tied into UEFI.
Peter.
Yeah, I think it comes down to mobility. You know, a lot of people are on 7. A lot of people go to 8 and they're like, oh, this new user experience kind of scares me.
Right.
But you could work in the desktop mode and the touch user experience. And so we're finding with mobility, it's all about the use case. So things like Delta Airlines, getting those pilots, a lightweight thing that replaces 40 pounds of paper. Empire, you had all your guys with catalogs. You need something real time to get your consultants out in the field, being able to do measurement. I'm anxious to see your demo because it really shows how you could reduce all that and get that real time. Retail, again, getting people out of the back end. So the use cases around mobility we think are the really key areas to target Windows 8.
Right.
And having that touch capability in different form factors and different prices really opens the market for the different experiences our customers have with their customers.
Right.
And that's a critical area we're focused on.
I think one of the conversations that we had is we both spend most of our time on the desktop. When I'm on a plane, then I spend a lot of time, I'm watching Netflix, I'm doing movies, things like that, I'm playing games. But when I'm working each day, I'm on the desktop. And the thing I like about touch is I like to be able, when I get to a document, to just quickly embiggen or pinch and zoom, make it bigger, make it smaller, be able to scroll to where I want to go, be able to write on the screen and be able to do that. And now to have a form factor that's lighter than a MacBook Air, but this is an i5 core, 4 to 8 gigs of RAM, up to 512 gig SSD. It's the form factor as you're moving from room to room to room. And, you fly a lot, so do I. We constantly always see these people with these gigantic, big bulk laptops with this large power supply, but we also then see them in hand with a tablet. They go, I want to do this quick, light, fast, but I also need this. They're either consuming and they're using the laptop to create and to be able to bring that together, to have one device that is your consumption and creation device. That's just less that you're carrying, because we found out most people that were carrying an iPad also had a laptop, and to be able to merge those two, that becomes a huge thing to have that power at your fingertips.
Yeah, I think the fact that it runs the same operating system on an 8-inch, some of these larger, all the way up to an i7 with the Surface Pro 3 is incredible. It's the same platform across all, and I think that's really beneficial to those customers using it.
And picking the form factor and size that makes the best sense for you and the business that you're doing. We've had a lot of build up to showing off your Empire demo, so I think it's time for us to take a look at it. So why don't you walk us through the Precision Quote app?
Okay. All right. So this is our Precision Quote app. It's a Windows 8 app that we've developed in Visual Studio in C# and XAML. It's back end we're running in Windows Azure or Microsoft Azure with some cloud services and a web API running there. And this is our homepage that a sales contractor would see when they log in the morning. On the left side, they have notifications. So we'll give them important information, such as one here is a canceled appointment, which has a red, we call a red hat on it. Some of them are more of, they can create self-gen leads, so there's a bunch there. In the middle, we have, which is important for our contractors, is what their day is like. Basically, it's an overview of the number of sales appointments that they have. And we give them, usually we have yesterday, today, and tomorrow. Today is in green. The other two are in blue right now. And we have our hats. So yesterday I have 3 up there in the left-hand corner in red. That basically means as a sales contractor, I didn't do something I was supposed to do.
That's not good.
It's not good. So there should be no hat there.
Right.
And then today I have four appointments. And then there's one there in the upper left in yellow, which means there's something I'm going to need to do later on today.
Okay.
So what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually drill into today. So here we go. So here's our sales appointment summary. It gives
you put us here in Seattle. That's very nice.
I created some appointments here in the Seattle area.
Thank you. Well, see, that's great. Now your boss knows you're out here. You're doing some work. While you're here, you're going to see some customers. I think that's great.
Get some sales.
Get a little sales.
But we do have a Bing map here, which we're actually, if the address is geocoded, which we try to geocode the address, if we for some reason it's mistyped or something, we may not. But we do
even show the traffic I see here too.
Yeah. So you can show the traffic, see what it's like today. And we basically plot the appointments on the map. If I select one, so I'll select this one here, I can do a few things. I can actually show a route. We don't give them turn-by-turn directions on the device, but we'll give them a quick route so they can kind of, actually I think our resolution is a little bit off, but usually tell you the driving time.
Sure.
As well as the distance. Give them a quick idea.
Yeah.
If they want turn-by-turn, we give them the ability to send the address to their phone, whether it's text message or email, and then they can do turn-by-turn on their phone.
Sure. So now they know if they have time to get lunch or they need to leave now, et cetera.
And then we have another cool feature which we call the arrival notice. So if a contractor's on his way to the customer's house, they can click this button and we'll send the customer a pre-recorded message saying, contractor's on the way, they'll arrive in 30 minutes or 25 minutes. It's a little more standardized than the contractor calling themselves.
Right.
And then what we can do is I'm going to drill into this appointment. We give more information on the appointment, the address, some information on the products they may be interested in, the date, the time. Again, another map of that appointment specifically. And you can
you can pinch and zoom.
Pinch and zoom on that as well as the other map. And then what we think is the coolest feature is the diagram, which
I like this.
One of our great developers, Stephen Creaney, basically, we looked at a lot of other solutions out there that were for the flooring industry that were really kind of almost mini CAD applications, which are a lot harder to use.
Right.
So we really wanted to design for touch and design for simplicity, which, Windows 8 apps, it's one of the big points of that. So that's what we've done, and Stephen was able to develop something that's basically pretty cool. So I have a few here. I'm going to go ahead and add a new room.
Yeah.
So I'm just going to add room, and we have some information we asked them to collect. So I'm going to say this is going to be, let's say, the master bedroom.
Okay.
The floor, so it's the first floor. We're going to take up some existing carpet.
And what's take up is what's there currently?
Yeah, what's there currently. So we got carpet. And then so we're taking up carpet. We're probably going to need the hallway.
That'd be great. Thank you. I want to do that myself.
And then we show them some templates, just makes it a little bit easier for them to draw the rooms. It's a starting point. So I'm going to just do a square. And again, this is a starting point. So I'm going to say it's 12 feet by 14 feet. And then we go into what we call our drawing canvas, which is this is where the contractor can really manipulate the drawing as they need. So I'm going to add a door. So I have my door. I'm going to add a marker, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a little closet here. So I'm going to do what we call extrude, but I'm going to pull that out. So I have a closet. And then say the bedroom, probably not, but maybe there's a bed in there that's not movable, so we can add a cutout. It's probably more useful in a kitchen.
Like a kitchen where if you had an island or something like that.
So there we go. So it's going to give us the dimensions from the wall so they know where to place it.
I like having a bed in the middle of my room. It's a good thing.
So So that's the drawing. That's one room, and they do it room by room.
Right.
So I go back. I'm just going to save that. There we go. And I can create a floor plan. So they can combine all the, so I already have the dining room, so I can drag them and place them around so that when we actually go back in the back office, they can, if it's carpet, it's very important that, we run the seams properly and we know the correct amount of material. So the layout's very important so they can match them up. But it's not quite a real scenario, so I can't quite match them up. So we can go in there. So they have, and I have added a staircase, so we can, that's one of our newer features. So I can say, I'm going to add a set of stairs. I'm going to say it's just basically a floating, and it's waterfall. And so this really makes it easy for our contractors to add stairs. Very simple. And it'll make sure we get the correct material and can actually do the quote the best as possible. Save my changes. And then I'm going to go back. And I have another one where I'm actually going to show the, once the contractors add all the products and the customer says, yes, I want to move forward.
Yep.
We actually have a contract. So this is where I actually have, customer can take the device and sign. So I'm going to show the contract.
Yeah.
So I'm going to drill into this one.
And how long from the time that you built this, so from kind of proof of concept to pilot, how long did that take?
About a year and a half.
About a year and a half.
Yeah, and we're continuously adding
Right.
new features. So with and we manage this with System Center and Intune. So with System Center and Intune, we can, since we're going market by market, we can actually deploy new versions to specific markets. We could even do user, but we choose to do markets.
Right.
So I can do the newest version in Phoenix.
We're a little
and
more
leave-
savvy. Or,
and leave the older version in other markets. So that's
But you had a working prototype within how long?
working prototype within about 6 weeks or so.
Wow.
And then basically we went back to drawing board, added more features. And then earlier this year, we actually started deploying it. So we hope to have, I don't know if we'll have all our contractors on by the end of the year, but a majority of them because it's
Yeah.
working so well. So,
And holidays is a big time of year for you guys.
yeah, holidays. Yeah, it's very seasonal. So, different times of year. So.
Yeah. Awesome. So, and now you're here, so you
Yeah.
go ahead and upload this.
Yeah, so, well, I can't quite get to the upload from here, but
That's fine.
I can show, which is also pretty cool, is our sales contract. So I'm just going to navigate through a few of these screens really quick.
Yep.
Once this comes up, hopefully it comes up. So this is, which if it's paper, this is like, 10, 12, 14 pages of legal contract that the customer has to sign. So really they're going to read this. Sales contractor is going to give this to the customer, read this. There's check boxes, so they do some checking. Once all the check boxes are checked, we'll enable, and they can basically sign their, it's a little bit harder here, but sign their
Yeah.
name.
They can make their
And
mark.
basically all these pages, these are reviewing the information, the products that are being installed,
Wow.
stuff that a customer would want to know so that they know that we're going to do the installation properly.
Right.
Once they're done with this, they'll basically go to an upload screen. It'll basically, we have a Windows web API that we've created. It's running in Microsoft Azure on a cloud service. So it'll upload as long as they're online. If they're not online, it'll be queued on the device. If they're online, it'll go up to the cloud service, get put into a storage queue. And then in our back office, we have services running that are basically listening to those queues.
Right.
As soon as it sees something, it pulls it down. It does a bunch of processing. It creates some PDFs and sends the customer an email with the contract as well.
Wow.
So there's no printing required at all.
Completely removed.
And then it's ready for order entry and fulfillment. And a more good proportion of time we're doing next day installs. So
Right. And you said that, you were finding that 1 out of every 4, about 25% of the contracts you were getting had a mistake, errors in room measurements,
Yeah,
things like this has dramatically reduced that.
yes, it has, because you can imagine a contractor writing stuff out pretty much on a scratch pad.
Yeah.
Drawing really, putting
Crude
notes and
drawings,
stuff,
yeah.
and then it gets into order management because they have to fax it. The fax may be bad, the handwriting may be bad, so the person entering it, the order in the system is reading that. And it's very difficult.
Yeah.
So now they're getting basically all the information that we're collecting here electronically. So it's amazing. In addition to that, we're also collecting all this additional information that at some point is going to allow us, better feedback to the customers, better feedback for analysis.
Right.
So that down the road we can as a business, make better decisions. What's selling, what's not selling, how are the reps, how are individual contractors doing?
Right.
You know, do we have a contractor that's not doing well? Do they need not doing well from a technology standpoint, from a selling standpoint? Is there something that we can do better with them?
Yeah.
So there's just so many benefits. It's
No,
unbelievable.
absolutely.
So
This is great. We got time for about one or two more questions, and then I want to give each of our guests a moment to kind of wrap things up here. But Windows Intune, sorry, let me fall the way down. Does System Center work with Windows Intune, or how do I know when to use which product? And I know this is a question that a lot of folks have had. So System Center Intune, what's the difference between the two? When should somebody choose one or the other? Do people automatically have both? Yeah.
Yeah, so we want to make sure that all the customers, you can deploy and use these device management solutions however works best for you. If you're a smallish kind of customer, you can use Intune only, and that would manage your PCs, your mobile devices, everything.
Because you can deploy apps, you
Cloud.
can see
That's right.
PC health. With Windows Intune, a user can click to get assistance, things along that line. System Center, the way that I've always sort of seen it is System Center, if everybody's on-prem and in a building, System Center's the way to go. If you have users who have internet access but are not domain joined, or for a small business, or if you're a contractor, supporting several different businesses, then Intune may have some benefits there, plus the fact that that's a per-seat license rather than the way that System Center. How does the licensing kind of come together for that? And do you get one if you get both? How does that work?
Yeah, we make it really easy. So if you buy the Intune per user license, you can have rights to System Center. So you can choose to deploy it however you want to. If you already own System Center, which lots and lots of our Microsoft customers do, we have a quick and easy, cheap Intune step up that you can license to add the Intune features onto it.
Awesome. So I want to give everybody about 30 seconds to a minute on kind of final thoughts. The customers watch this, they're saying, you know what? We definitely are seeing more of this. We're seeing more iPads, Android, Windows devices come in. We really want to do things that are secure. What are one or two things that each customer should really sort of look at? Peter, I'll start with you.
Yeah, so I think the biggest thing is the array of choices. Sometimes a lot of choices is too much.
Yeah.
But we have a solution for each of your industries. And so that's important to work with our team, work with our partners, identify the right device for the right industry. And if you're new to Windows 8, we've got a lot of people and resources to help you get more familiar with Windows 8, check your applications to make sure they'll work on Windows 8, create a gold image for you, do the training. We've got some white glove experiences to get your team and staff trained up. So lots of choices, but we can find the right device and right solution for you.
If you go to windows.com/enterprise, we also have some training right on there. There's under end users. There's a bunch of short videos that you can give to your end users on how do I use the start menu, how do I do this. There's a lot of great free resources out there. Michael.
Yeah, and I think we talked a little bit before that we just really want you to think about scenarios.
Right.
So look at your line of business applications, try to find some scenarios that you can use these types of devices with, and then start building applications for those scenarios. Once you get started with that, then you can look at potentially expanding Windows 8.1 beyond that. At the same time, figuring out how to manage them, whether you do the traditional domain join, group policy, Active Directory, System Center, or do you use the more cloud-based solutions with mobile device management and Intune or similar solutions to that, really requires you kind of taking a step back and thinking about what's best for the scenario. If it's a truly mobile device, you want to manage it differently than you have with the traditional PCs in the past.
Right. And the great thing, I think the important thing is that we as Microsoft understand you're not a Microsoft-only house, that you have a variety of devices, that our solutions, like the ones that Adam has been talking about, will support those. Third parties support us, that we see this as much more of a heterogeneous environment. But the more you can start to standardize, whatever direction that is, it's really going to help you to do this better. And the Microsoft tools are constantly evolving and moving forward. And you may already have some of those, and you don't even realize it based on some of your licensing agreements.
Yep.
Ted?
Well, San Bernardino Sheriff's Department's really taking a look at all Microsoft has to offer. And, Windows 8, Server 2012, like you talked about the management tools with Active Directory. We talk about speed and security of 8.1 with Server 2012. Security is a big issue for us.
Yeah.
Encryption, BitLocker, and just managing them from an enterprise solution and using Config Manager and stuff like that just to manage the enterprise from the common interface. We went with Office 365 recently, Azure, and we're just moving to the cloud services, and this is just next logical step.
Awesome. Phil?
Yeah, for us, being a Microsoft shop and familiarity with Visual Studio and our needs as a company for our sales contractors and in the future our installers has basically made it really easy to choose Microsoft and the Microsoft stack, and Windows Azure makes it extremely easier to deploy things, and then Intune and System Center as well as for managing that.
Awesome.
So.
I think from a management perspective, I think we just want to make sure that customers know that, a cross-plat perspective, we allow end users to, work from the device that they love, get access to the apps that they know, and the IT pro can manage all of that in consoles and things that make sense and can leverage what they've already invested in, all while protecting their data.
Perfect. So we've talked about a few resources. Let me just quickly run those down. If you'd like to download a free 90-day evaluation of Windows 8.1 Enterprise, you can go out to aka.ms/mobility1. To learn more about EMS, you can go out to aka.ms/mobility2 or windowsintune.com. And to get up to this $350 per device and learn more about our corporate buyback program, aka.ms/mobility3. We'll get that all to you. I want to thank all of our panelists, San Bernardino County Sheriff's Department, Empire Today, all of our Microsoft folks for coming out. Make sure if you're watching this live that you take a moment and that you fill out the survey to get a chance to win some of the great devices. And we want to thank everybody for coming out, and good luck on your mobility project. My name is Stephen Rose. Thank you for joining us today.